right, everybody, welcome back. This is the Unheard Digital Summit. Your host, Austin Turner here. I have the one and only George Nugent with us today. I will explain all about George, where he enters into this wonderful conversation on the reopening of youth sports, specifically from the soccer officials' perspective, as well as an interesting twist. I'll allow him to talk a little bit more about his experience here shortly. But George, pleasure to see you and speak with you today, sir. How's everything on your end?
Thank you very much. And I was looking forward to, just to give as much information as possible to our colleagues on the field and off the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the interesting part of this discussion to begin with, is that you come from multiple different hats, right? Long-time referee myself. For those that don't know, I've been a referee for nearly 20 years. I'm more of a referee than a player. I think I've always been that way or considered myself that way. And the player that I became is due to the time that I spent learning the game as an official. And I stand the testament that any young soccer player should be an official at some point, so they gain that perspective. But you also have a very interesting secondary hat or other hat that you speak from. Let's talk a little bit about what that looks like in your time in the medical field.
This country has been very good to me. I was 19 years old. I followed all the rules. I followed whatever is required of me. I went to college. I graduated. And then I worked in one hospital for over 35 years, which is in Huntington Hospital in Pasadena. I was the director of imaging, okay? And we've seen the patients come and go. I've seen a lot of stuff in the emergency room, and I would go into your next question, whatever you want to ask me.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And, the American dream, and a lot of my interviewees, especially the coaches, especially those that have impacted or touched the lives of the children, the actual youth, the ones that are being impacted and those that aren't being heard during this COVID-19 global pandemic crisis. You have spent a lot of time both at the referee side of the equation as well as in the medicine side of the equation. You said 35 years in the hospital setting in the imaging ranks. What does that look like from a general perception on COVID-19? How is this impacting the family? How is this impacting referees? From a 30,000-foot approach?
This is very unfortunate. We're going through a very unfortunate times right now. Okay. And then what I have a message to everybody. If you take care of yourself, if you are safe yourself, that means you are guaranteeing a big portion of other people's safety. Okay. We need to take everything serious, and we need to make sure that we adhere to policies and we adhere to counties and so on and so forth. So unfortunately for us and everybody, it's impacting more of the younger generation right now, who is really trying to understand what is going on. It's very difficult for me to explain it to my grandkids. It's very difficult. I understand we are not old people. We are older people that we need to take care of ourselves. We need to be respectful of people around us.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it nail on the head. It is going to take a solidarity, one unified effort from everyone involved in order to safely reopen sports, reopen education, and get life back to normal, whatever that normal looks like. So you hit it nail on the head there, George. Talk to me a little bit about these mandated state guidelines. I know you mentioned a little bit in that. How are they impacting the referees at the collegiate level?
At the collegiate level, we are reading every day. This conference, that conference is going to the spring. So at least in my view and my colleagues on the NISOA side, which is the collegiate side, that we are definitely looking that everything is going to be moving into the spring. And with that, there's a conflict. And maybe I should not talk about it right now, but because in January, February, March, all the youth is going to start. Everything is moved then. So now the referees are going to be the referee services will be impacted the most. So we are not just the referees. We are the other entity that should be adhered, that should be at least listened to and taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that segues, directly into, where we're going, the potential crisis or catastrophe that we're going to have at our hands at both the, I guess every layer of the officiating spectrum, youth, collegiate, and then moving forward, into the future, what that looks like for the next generation of referees. But before we can actually begin to talk about really where we're going moving forward, we have to talk about where we've come from. Let's talk about some of your experience at the youth ranks. I know extensively where you've come from, how you've impacted the game here in the Southern California market specifically, but let's talk about where that became or where that came from initially.
As we are known, and I'm sure everybody will say, okay, George, now here's your shot at it. We had the best youth program in Southern California. I understand I am from Southern California, but I'm going to tell you exactly what my experience traveling around the country. Our teams, our youth teams were the best. Our referees were the best. We were looked at as, oh, here they come. Here they show up as a unit. Here they come. We officiate, and a lot of the rankings stemmed from California South. I'll say from California South. Okay, now we hope to stimulate this program again and bring it back to where it's supposed to be. And that's a very controversial statement I'm making.
Absolutely. And I share a lot of sentiments, being, once again, having 20 years of refereeing experience and being of the younger generation. I see a lot of the pain points or challenges that the associations themselves are having from a communication standpoint. So Two-Footed Solutions is definitely interested in creating opportunities to help fix or overcome those pain points that will lead to more referees in the pipeline and a better or stronger next generation of referees. So let's talk a little bit about your role or your experience in Cal South. What was your title? What was your responsibilities?
I was the state referee administrator. I was in charge of all the referees, male, female, youth, adults, whatever you call them. Okay. We wanted to bring respect back on the soccer field for the people in that uniform. We never called them referees. I made some changes, but it came back. They are the third team on the field, because the word referees, sometimes it does not go well with some people, okay? We are the armed forces of the game. I even called it the armed forces of the game. I wanted to make sure that the referees, when they walk on the field, they have credibility with the people on the sideline, the coaches, and the players. And I hope that will continue. Okay, we're not just referees, and we have to be more careful today. Let me turn the page a little bit. Do not forget, we're going to wear a badge. And that badge is going to have a lot of consequences, because when the whistle goes, everybody stops. And everybody's going to be looking at this referee with the badge, because we're going to make a decision. Is the ball going left or is the ball going right? Why is it a foul? Why is it not a foul? We're going to be questioned a lot. And I've never heard this from nobody. Our walking on the field these days is not going to be the same as we walked 6 months ago. It's going to be much different. We're going to be questioned for every move we make. So we have to be very patient. And that is not being taught at the youth level and local level. You know what? Yes, we know the mask. Before we talk about the mask and how are we going to walk on the field with the mask, we have to be more patient. We have to get this chip off of our shoulder as referees. We're carrying a badge. It's no different than the authority badge. People are going to be looking at us, okay? And we have our best referees, Spanish referees, and these aren't to be taught too. You know what? We need to know how to deal with players, how to deal with coaches, how to deal with people on the sideline. No matter what the referee will do in today's environment, somebody's going to question. We're no different than our authorities on the streets. And we know what they're going through. And I think this is a phase that we need to understand. We need to go through it. And education needs to go to that level of officiating, not the laws of the game and everything. And I'm sure that nobody talks about that. Okay. How long do you linger talking to players? How long can you take in your ear? Your ear should be receiving a lot of information. People are going to be talking to you as if everything you do is wrong. Look at the other side of the coin. People on the streets, what's happening today. So we have to be very careful. Once you whistle and that card goes up and the other card goes up, what's the difference between that and authorities on the street trying to protect people?
Yeah, that's an interesting parallel, an interesting analogy, no question. So there is a lot of responsibility for both, and you have to make snap judgment calls. And we're talking half a second, millisecond has to go by the time you have to read an entire play, make a judgment decision based off of the rules of the game or the laws in that case, and then execute whatever that solution is at that given time. You know, that is very interesting. And there's a lot of parallels in the current environments for both. You know, now soccer with no fans in the stands. You can hear every player's words. You can hear the coaches yell. You can hear the assistant coaches yell. You can hear the fourth officials having a conversation separating the two officials on the sideline. You can hear every single bit of communication that happens on the field now. And it's a very interesting situation to hear, you know, and we can honestly have a full-on conversation about referee abuse from coaches, referee abuse from parents, referee abuse from players themselves. But let's talk a little bit about, you know, how referees are adapting. You talked about the technological advances where you now have earpieces, you now have this, you know, VAR type setting at the collegiate ranks. Now, how are referees adapting to these changes? I know masks are required and you are gearing up with, you know, your blueprint in order to be able to get referees back out on the field safely. Talk to me what that looks like.
Now here it is. When I used to officiate, I looked in the mirror in the morning and talk to myself and say, nobody likes you, no matter what you do. Understand that before you walk on the field.
Yeah.
You're going to make some decisions on the field, no different than a decision whether you are driving 65 miles an hour, 55 and 70. Somebody might just pick you and then stop you, okay? We are working very parallel with this idea. Walk on the field, make sure you know the book inside out. Make sure every word you say on the field is within content, because people are going to listen to every word you say and they will pick up on something they did not like, okay? Keep the ball moving, stay away from players. You know, you want to wear a mask, you are welcome. You don't want to wear a mask, you have to have a reason for it. Okay, we have a job just like the kids have a job. You know what? The most important thing for the referee is to make sure the ball enters one net and the ball enters the other net. Whatever happened in between must be by the book to start with. Okay, to start with. Get off the word advantage. That might not work today. Let the game go a little bit before you start giving advantage here, advantage over there, advantage over here, because no matter what happened on the soccer field, any injury, it's going to be blamed on, let's all say it together, they're going to be blamed on the referee.
Mm.
You know, so that we need to be very careful. Whistle, get somebody in. Whistle, get somebody in. Okay?
Yeah, and that's another interesting point as well. The good are going to separate themselves from the pack, right? So good officials, good police officers, just to continue with the parallels, they are going to separate themselves. And what that means is the bad ones are also going to separate themselves. So it's going to allow us the opportunity to help, cleanse the game in a lot of cases. It's going to allow the opportunity to, have the referees who aren't following the rules and the police officers who aren't following the rules aren't able to execute their job based off of, the rule book that's been presented to them. Now have an opportunity to remove them from the system in a sense, or be able to train them effectively. Let's talk a little bit about what that training looks like currently. And I want to focus primarily on the collegiate ranks. Let's talk about how referees are getting from the collegiate ranks to that next level, or what that next level looks like.
The next level look very independent, very tough, because people on the sideline, they know the rules. See, it's not the law. They know the rules. And for the first time since I officiated, the rules are mirroring the IFAB. So there's no excuses anymore. Oh, well, they restart in here, over there. So what we're doing today, the rule book just came out. Okay, and we work very hard. We're mirroring IFAB. Okay, so that's very important for people to understand. A lot of the calls that people make, if you hide by the rule or by the law, you cannot go wrong. But if you going to not call this foul now and 2 minutes afterwards call it on the other person, that does not work today, in today's environment. Very tough. Call it by the book, hide by the book, let them accept you by the book, and then when we move forward, okay, well, when I played, that was not a foul. That should never have been said. And if the coach yells from the sideline, turn around and look at the coach. Okay, let him know that you heard him or her. You need to be you need to learn personality. And that, not everybody can teach that. You have to be very well versed in the game to stand in front of referees and tell them, this is how you officiate today. Okay, just because you have a badge, just because you have a card, just because you have a different socks, that does not give you the full authority to act like it. Very difficult subject.
Powerful. No, powerful. And it is very true. I mean, I'm an English soccer fan, English Premier League. I've got my favorite Manchester United team, and I've been a supporter forever. However, I also know the officials, right? You have the standout officials, the officials who are repping the games, and you know the good officials. And you say, okay, this is going to be a fair game. This is going to be a good, hard-fought match because of whoever is centering for that given day or given game. So it does take, in order to become the best or in order to impact the game at that level, it does take that special type of referee. You see it at the collegiate ranks all the time, but let's talk about how that youth referee becomes that special collegiate referee. So let's switch back onto the youth hat. What are your thoughts on, or what does that next generation of officials look like now that COVID-19 is rearing its ugly head and impacting the game?
You know what? You just asked a very difficult question, but let me try to answer it. The youth referees in today's environment must be protected 100% from not just being exposed to COVID, being exposed to abuse from the sideline. You cannot have somebody fry on the sideline. That's because you are the referee, you don't pay attention. That should not be allowed. Players used to call me on the phone. Mom used to call me on the phone crying. I says, what can we do? She doesn't want to go back. He doesn't want to go back. I said, if I was in their shoes, I would not go back. But let's talk about what can they do next game? What can they do next game? When I give an example, the worst thing for any child in the house, when your mom and dad tells you, go to your room. We all know that. Did I suffer from that the most in my family? Just go to your room. All you do is tell the parents one more time, and I'm going to send you to your car. And the referee should know that they said that. We need to give them a little bit more power. Not just they are youth referees, let them get abuse them. Parents are very important to us. We should always support these people. And I tell you, it's going to be a little difficult to regroup all the young ones back into the game. Okay? There are some pockets in Southern California that can remedy that. But I still have a little issue that the older referees who's been sitting at home doing nothing to come back and rethink the game differently going forward.
That's interesting. And that does bring up a secondary dynamic as well. In the youth ranks, so let's keep the youth referee official hat on for a second. You not only have youth, right? You have the next generation of referees, but you also have the older generation of referees, which I would assume makes up a majority of your referee base. Correct me if I'm wrong. A majority of referees of the 40 plus, 35 plus, or what does that look like?
To me, the youth referees, they are no different than your grandchildren. The way you treat them, the way you treat your grandchildren, the way you are very patient with your grandchildren, you need to be very patient with them. You need to let them know there is something you can make. I never told youth referees you're going to referee. Says, no, it's a job. You're going to get paid. And if you don't think that is correct, what they say, oh, I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get paid doing this work. By you saying that, you said, okay, because you're getting paid, you have to have your socks up, you have to comb your hair, you have to make sure you have the correct everything. So if you're getting paid, by looking like a good referee, you earn some respect. The rest is, do not worry. There are going to be people on the sideline protecting you.
Yeah, that's cool. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I went through the indoctrination ceremony as a young referee of that, parental abuse, player abuse. I've got stories, stories where you make a mistake and then all of a sudden you've got kids yelling, screaming right in your face, yelling at you about a call you didn't make correctly. And I get it. Everyone's fallible. Everybody makes mistakes. However, those experiences have lasted me 20 years. Those experiences are things that could have broken me as a referee and forced me to find something else to do or focus on being a player. And I would say, the fortunate one. I would say that I was able to overcome and still continue down my referee officiating path. And I love it more so now than I did growing up, for sure. But there are a number, and the numbers don't lie. And this is where into the conversation is pretty good. The numbers don't lie. Referee registrations are down tremendously in the youth ranks. And the older generation of referees in the youth ranks are also retiring, or they're not coming back post-COVID-19. So we're going to have a pretty severe problem on our hand here with a referee shortage, I'd say. Let's talk about the youth referee realm for a second still. What does that look like? In the event that referees are short, what could the potential fallout or the outcome of that be?
You know what? This could not be. I wish I can have a word or two right now to resolve that issue. But there should be a committee sitting down from experienced people. There was one young lady, I don't know whether you know her, but I'll say her last name in a minute. She stood up in front of all the older guys. She lectured all of them. She was my protege, but unfortunately I left and I can no longer mentor her. Okay. We cannot give up. Her last name is Turner, but I won't say her first name. Okay? She was a tough referee, very tough referee on the field. And she will look at somebody and she will point one more time and you're not going to be there. But we were on the sideline. The old timers were on the sideline. She said, do not worry. We are here. You need to officiate. And that's what needs to be done. And when you say mentoring, you're going to have to be careful. Sometimes mentoring is devastating for the youth referees, and I know it's controversy. Stop telling them what they do wrong. There are youth referees, they want to hear somebody say, I'm so proud of you for at least finishing the game. You put up with a lot of crap on the sideline. You know what? That's part of life. You know what? It's normal. But by the end of the game, these people who yelled at you, they paid you. At least you got paid by them. You have to speak differently to all the young referees to remain them. I still have close to 25 of them still communicate with me on Facebook.
Wow.
We need
Powerful.
them. They do not need us. We need them. We need to put everything in front of them. We need to give them everything the opportunity to do whatever they need to do to appear on the soccer field and to officiate the game, get paid, and go home.
That sounds like a pretty darn good definition of success for anyone's job. You know what I mean? And as a referee, that is your job, is to show up and to do the best of your abilities for that given time period. And then at the end of it, collect your paycheck and then go home. So yeah, no, that's brilliant. And you couldn't have said that any better. In order to build the next generation of referees, it is going to take a collective effort. It is going to take a group effort. You know, parents, those viewer parents that are out there listening, you coaches that are out there listening, you know, everyone who's involved with the game from the top down who may be listening to this, you know, it is going to take a collective effort, or else there is some catastrophe on our hands. If the registration of young referees continues to go down, and if the older generation of referees, these mentors that we're discussing, they decide to not come out, not even, you know, give them the every wrong thing they did wrong, but if they just don't show up, or if they're not around anymore because of what, you know, them being a part of the susceptible bracket, there could be a huge void or vortex on our hands.
Now, when I would tell mom and dad, what's the difference between your job at home, which is very respectful, you have to be tough at home. What's the difference between that job and somebody walking on the soccer field and in charge of the rule book or the law book? They doing the same job like you're doing at home, okay? Sometimes they have to result. Go to your room, go to the parking lot. It's the same thing, it's the same analysis. So actually it takes a good person to put up with all the entities that we suffer with on the soccer field, especially the youth. Youth are always afraid somebody's going to come on the soccer field and assault them. Unfortunately, that's the biggest youth fear. Not the game, not the ball, not a decision. When somebody from the sideline can say something to the referee on the soccer field. And we do allow it. And we should not allow it. A player, you give a call inside the 18-yard line. The referee calls a call. We don't call penalties. We call the foul. According to the law book, it's a kick from the 11, right? And then the game is tied with 1 minute left. And the kid shanks the ball. The game is still tied. Do you blame it on the player? Do you go, oh, we could have gone home. Oh, it's so hot. Why didn't you score? Nobody will say nothing to the player. But why would we have the authority to say something to the referee who called the foul? It just happened to be inside the 18, and according to the rule and all the law, it's a free kick. We need to be thinking like this. So everybody has the pluses and minuses. How many shots on goal does every team take? Let's say 20, and the game ends up 0-0. Are these bad players? No. Do they all want to not score? No. Do all the referees are perfect? No. Do we all miss? Yes. We're all human. So if we think about all of us, let us do our job, do your job, and let's go home. We're going to be very happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone is fallible. Everyone makes mistakes. No one is expecting anybody to be perfect in this world. Some people expect perfection from themselves, however. I may fall into that group. But nobody is sitting there saying that you have to show up every day and be perfect. Everyone has that room to make mistakes. And it should be the same for young referees. You know, I was a kicker. Maybe you knew this, but I transitioned from football to football, soccer to football. But I was a place kicker, and I can't even tell you how many games it came down to 4, 5, 6 seconds on the clock, and we're losing, 7-6, and it comes up to me to kick a field goal to win the game. I've had 2 or 3 plays that entire 60-minute game, 48-minute game, I've had 2 or 3 plays totaling 30 seconds on the field. Yet these last 4 seconds of the game determined, if people blame the game on me or if I was the hero, the GOAT, the savior. And that is a very, nerve-wracking position, and it does take somebody who's got a little gumption or does have a little, core in their stomach in order to take. Yet these same referees are being subjected to it week in and week out, day in and day out in a lot of cases. You are expecting them to be perfect. You're expecting them to know every single call. You're expecting them to make every single call correctly every single time, which is, once again, expectations are completely unfair. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is costing these kids, the players, the opportunity to potentially play soccer moving forward in that type of setting. Let's go back to the void, right? If you have these young referees who are stopping, right, or saying, I can't handle this anymore, this stuff is too much, what does that look like for the next generation of referees if they can no longer have a next generation of referees?
Now, number one, there's no such a thing in my lifetime when I was in charge of referees. Oh, I'm gone, I'm done. No, I'll follow up with a phone call. I'll follow up with a phone call, and I tell them that they did a good job. They're very tough. The most important thing, we can't just lose them on a Saturday and not pay attention to them anymore. We can't do that, because then we will end up with nothing. Then we would be very happy if George past 70, we need him to officiate now because we don't have enough. We just need to do one-man system. No, we need to put our mind not to become FIFA referees. We need to put our mind not become national. We need in our mind to retain these referees on the soccer field because we need them. And we need to pour as much money as possible to retain them, to educate them, and to let them know that we need you. Even though we're paying you, but we still need you more than just we paying you. And that is going to be a gap. That is going to be a gap. And I'm not going to cite any numbers anymore. We need to refocus. We need to refocus our education. Where are these referees? For example, what I did on the collegiate side, we would contact people who did not register. Why? Why did you not register? Why? Because you're not making money? Why can we help you? What can we do? You need to be active constantly in recruiting. I would walk into McDonald's. I says, you know what? I have a job for you on the weekend. And a lot of my colleagues would say, George will even go to anybody and will be recruiting. I'll have a card. I said, I'll get you a job. It's a clean job and you can make this money. Okay, you give me a call and I can hook you up. You can be standing in the sun, having a good time and getting paid more than what you get paid right now. I was very bold. I was very bold. And you know what? And I would sit in a cart looking around at, my goodness, did they pay you? Number one, did they pay you? Yes, I got paid. I said, that's very good. Don't give it to mom or dad. Keep it. This is yours. But pay them for the uniform that they paid for you. Okay? Very important. We got to do everything possible to give stimulus, let's call it what we call it, stimulus packages to these young referees that are remaining on the field. Very important. Get them a backpack. We used to give them out. Come on, folks. Nothing is new. And I'm not taking a shot at anybody. You ask me the question and I'm answering you.
That's interesting, though. We do have, and you and I have chatted about this before for years, but the ability to complete the full life cycle of these referees, there are some gaps in communication, let's just say. Being notified day to day about your scheduling, or being notified of upcoming classes, or newsletter of what's new. There's a lot of different resources to be involved with in order to be in the know or be up to date. So it can be streamlined in my eyes, and it can be cleaned up. And I think we are working with, I know at least in the Presidio ranks down here in San Diego, we're working on, fine tuning our communication here, both with Presidio and the referees. But, that's very interesting. How are you getting these young referees back? What are you doing to retain them? How are you helping them during these difficult times? I love that backpack idea even. I would even love from a two-footed solution standpoint to help with launching that type of campaign. I think that type of resource would be perfect for those who are struggling. There's a number of different, things that you can put in that backpack that would provide multiple different solutions. There's boredom, there's food, there's a lot of things that you can provide value with that. And it takes one organization, one association to step up to the plate and say, hey, we want to look out for our members during these difficult times, no question. So yeah, I'd love to chat further on that. We also are working on a mental health awareness for referees specifically. Those who are experiencing, coach or player abuse, having that one centralized way to, send a message, documenting the incident, and then having that real-time communication response in order to have that comfortability. Know that everything's going to be okay and somebody is working on it. We're going to be unveiling that as the season gets a little closer, so I'm definitely excited for that. I like how you touched on it. The mental health of these referees is extremely integral to retaining them. And then those little things that we are able to do along the way are just going to keep them for longer and longer. And as you see from both ranks, you've got the youth hat in the past, and now with your collegiate hat, in order to become or be the best collegiate referee, it starts with the grooming and what you're able to do at that youth rank. So I love that idea, and I think that there's a lot of people who are out there who would support something like that. Business owners, community members, those a part of these different organizations or associations would want to participate in something that did impact the youth. So I'm going to put some energy towards this because I think that's a great idea, George. Now let's go ahead, talk to me.
Now, I now into fishing. Okay, I go fishing. There's a reason why I'm saying that. Where do you think all my gear is? It's in my backpack that has a logo on it. Has a logo on it. Okay? Whether it's from the person who gave me that backpack, and I'm not going to advertise free here, okay? But there's a logo on it, referee program. You know what? I use it and I put my everything in it. I go in it. That backpack is the biggest advertisement you can ever have. Youth, we used to give them away in settings, a backpack, okay? The days that players do not carry bags anymore, they carry backpacks. And I think youth referees, it's time for them not to carry a bag like normal everything else. Get a backpack, put everything in it, and everything can fit in it, even the flags. Even the flags can fit in it. So that's a great gift, from an organization. Here's the backpack for you, but please, I want to make sure, I'm not going to charge you for it, but I want to make sure that you're doing minimum of 2-3 games on the weekend if you have time. Okay? I'll follow up. I want to make sure the assigner will follow up. That's an incentive. You got to put something in front of the kids. I don't need to teach you or me, but they all do the same thing. Kids want something. They want to work for something. Okay? I mean, people would rather have a backpack on their back. They're walking around all these fields. This is a free advertisement for the so-called people who you think you can say sponsor. Here it is. It doesn't matter what logo is on there as long as it's clean. Okay? You know what? And I'm not gonna say my favorite place to have a hamburger. Okay? You could put a sign on it and just walk around with it. Who cares? You know what? It's a free backpack. I carry it. And and you know what? I do not know whether you know the president of Cal South. I think he will probably be open to that great idea. Why don't we advertise on backpacks in the back?
Yeah, I'll see if I can get his time. He's a busy man, unfortunately. So, George, hey, we're wrapping up our time here this afternoon. It's been a tremendous tremendous time speaking with you. I want to give you the floor for one last little bit. Anything you want to leave our viewers with?
We have to be patient. When you're walking on the soccer field going forward, it's not the same as you walked 6 months ago. You have to have a lot in your mind to be patient with people. No rabbit ears. Whistle according to the book. Get out. Go back where you belong. Nobody likes you, regardless what you think. So if you think like this, the game is over, do your stuff, go rest in a tent where nobody can get to you, because people are going to be talking to you just like they talk about the people who have real guns and real badges on. You have the same thing. Be careful what you do, be careful what you say. The least you say, the best thing for you. And you have a lot of support coming from the outside that will give you everything possible to go to the next level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, George, we appreciate your time. Hear the unheard, couple great perspectives that we touched on. Thank you very much, my friends. I look forward to seeing you real soon.
Very good, my friend, and it's an honor for me. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Austin Turner here at the Unheard Summit. That was George Nugent. Fantastic conversation. Loved every second of it. Hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to continuing this digital summit. See you at the next interview.